Brian, we're going to talk about crisis planning today. And this is a topic that we have most definitely hit on in podcast conversations. It's been part of succession planning. It's been part of fast growth planning, part of the building value discussions, but we've never actually done an episode right on crisis planning itself. And quite frankly, that's long overdue.
Well, but it is. It's somehow kind of like safety. It's always last, and it's not important until it is.
Yeah.
If you live long enough, like I am, you see a lot.
What was it that initially brought crisis planning to the forefront for you as a business owner to then also begin coaching on?
It's going back probably 4 or 5 years ago when I started then what I called a Finish Strong peer group, and we then did a boot camp, succession planning. I did a whole lot of research on what's involved in succession planning, and I started a peer group. And so I had everybody on the peer group write a crisis plan. These are people late 50s to mid 60s. And I'll tell you, from a time standpoint, everybody finished their crisis plan. And then I had one member die.
Within that group?
Yeah, everybody probably has heard this story before, but it's worth saying again. Jeff Clifton, classic paper and painting, and he has a partner, a friend of mine, John McFarlane, and Jeff was 62 years old. This is like 3 or 4 years ago now, and Jeff at his desk suddenly died, and they found him under his desk, and John called me, and John didn't even know that he had written this crisis plan. It was that fresh, and so together I read the crisis plan, both of us in tears, and sort of paved the way for John, who was, I guess, a 49% owner, to take over and where the passwords were and how to access QuickBooks and various things like that. And then I've unfortunately had the opportunity to use it again. I guess we're talking about 2 years.
Couple times now.
Yeah, a couple times now. And everybody knows Jeremy Brooks died, I guess, 18 months ago. But before he died, he fell in his parking lot and he had brain cancer.
That was a hard one. But fortunately, he was, everyone who knows Jeremy, loved Jeremy, stubborn. He was a stubborn man.
I said he was probably my toughest person to coach. He made me better because I had to really show up, and
he was loyal.
He was loyal, but he was a curmudgeon, so I'd get him out of it. Anyway, his crisis plan called for an advisory board, and well, he was alive, but not yet dead. He passed away, and I guess it was 4 months later when he passed away. And that's what's important here. Crisis plan is not just when you die, when you can have an accident and you're not able. So what prompted this podcast was last week, another member whose name I'll leave out for his own privacy and his family's, late at night, fell down the stairs and all the way down, 16 stairs into a ceramic floor and fractured his skull, and it had bleeding in his skull. And his son called me the next day. It was like early and didn't even know where the password was to his phone. So I quickly sent him the crisis plan, and we sort of got things up and going. And I just talked to me an hour ago. Actually, I'm going to see him tomorrow. The person who fell is awake and cognizant, but they're still not sure what the long term is going to be there. So I tell as many people as I can, I don't know of a more important system put in place first than this crisis plan, not only for yourself, but for your people who get paid by you and have payroll, and
Well, that's a big thing for me, is that there's this connotation around crisis planning attached to being of an older age, being in your 50s, 60s, maybe early 70s, still, running an organization. But so there's a lot of owners who are young and think, I'm young and healthy. Why do I need to do this now? I'm not worried about a crisis plan, but you are responsible for the lives of your employees and their well-being.
And the more responsibility you take on, the more responsible you are.
Right.
In the big, so does your spouse really want to jump in and take over the business? Do they? I could tell you in Jeremy Brooks's case, no. Kelly did not want to. She's an owner now, but she since has sold the business to Corey. A great story, great ending there. So we're talking about, like, you have a last will and testament for your life. Do you have a last will and testament for your business?
Right. So the goal of this podcast is not to scare listeners.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is. But it's to kind of bring the reality of situations situations that you unfortunately and our team here has lived through and seen the effects of it, both not having a plan in place, but then also having one, and how different those two experiences are. So let's take a few minutes here just to break down kind of the key components of an effective crisis plan. Brian, what should be a part of this?
So let me start with, it's a letter, and it's a letter to your family and employees that if something should happen to you, here are my desires.
In broad terms.
In broad terms, like for instance, I want these values to live on. No matter what you do, consider these values because they are the rocks that we want to surround the legacy of the business with. Here's who I'd like to put in charge. Did that with Brooks. It was contentious until we read it in a letter. What advisors do I want? I want to immediately call an advisory council, and you list out 4 to 6 people you'd like in that council. And in some cases, so it's the lawyer, the accountant, the business coach, maybe a banker, and a couple dear friends that would do anything for you. It would speak about the ownership and the desire to sell the business because I know that my spouse is not interested in running it. Mm-hmm. Most importantly, how to access everything in my world.
Yeah. This most recent example of not even knowing how to access somebody's phone.
So, I mean, how big is that? Like, and how many of you listening to this podcast know that your spouse or your friend, or partner has access to your phone to even know who's calling you and those type things.
Think about how many actual phone numbers do you know on the top of your head?
Right.
I mean, we have become so dependent upon technology and these devices. And we always say it, you love technology until we hate it when it's not working for us. And in this situation, we have kind of set ourselves up for technology to become a barrier when we need it the most.
That's right. That's right. We have an outline of who's my attorney, who's my accountant, where are my documents located, where are my passwords, what's future ownership, what are my insurance contacts, management team, advisory council. All documents include where's my last will and testament, trust documents, life insurance policy, property deeds, vehicle titles, bank account information, investment account information, funeral and burial instructions, medical directives, all these documents, social security card, birth and marriage certificate. A lot of times the last will and testament has this. What I'm suggesting is a letter that in 3 or 4 pages. I've told you before, it's located downstairs in the basement in a drawer. I have my passcodes. I think I've given you the password to the passcodes.
You have.
So you can access it.
I know where that is.
You know that is.
I do.
Because Mom does not. So something happens to me. And I think about like the life that I lead right now. I'm all over the place. As I'm flying, coming back from Portugal, I'm flying 35,000 feet over the ocean. I'm like, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And what would happen? You want the world to continue on and to go like, wow, he took care of things for us.
Well, this is a great example. I mean, as somebody who is involved in a lot of things, you've obviously written a crisis plan for yourself. You've encouraged other business owners to do so. But how often should we be reviewing this and looking at it? Because things can change in a year.
Oh, it does. So I'd make this the annual activity, if not more frequently. Obviously, things change, but I'd make this an annual piece where as you enter the new year, like in business, you do your budgeting. I would include this into your business planning process because your people need to know what to do. So after you finish it, you want to send it to your key people, your lawyer and accountant and those types of things. So you're
actually sending them the file?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
And then who should somebody like in your close world know, where it also lives? Like they could, they're not waiting on an attorney or a lawyer to be able to find it and locate it.
Yep. Let them know that. I think that's really key. So they immediately know who to call.
Yeah.
Something happens, like let's activate the plan. We're human beings in a very human world where things happen and we live in this sometimes la-la land where we never think it's going to happen to us.
Right.
And I mean, if Paul Cook was on this, we'd be including safety in this conversation and the importance of being, safety certified, safety aware in your programs, because he had a terrible thing happen in his business and over a decade now ago, and he's on a mission like make safety important.
So he would include that in his crisis letter because that's important to him. That continues on as a value within the business.
Totally, yes, that passion. And like you and Colin know that my passion for family business, never damaging a family, and if ever there's issues where the business is starting to damage a family, someone's got to step out.
Yeah.
Because the business and And for all you family businesses out there, I get involved when there's like an emergency now. I do a lot of family business coaching. I need you to pull back and make sure you have family covenants in place, how we treat each other, and to understand that the family is top purpose. The business serves it. So, and the crisis plan is a way to make sure the family doesn't start fighting over things like ownership discussions and things like that. That's all documented. So that's all. We just wanted to do a quick podcast to put this in your front windshield, that it's addressed.
We have lots of templates and resources on this topic. To those who work with us, they are available in the Summit Library. We're happy to send them to you. If you do not work with us, but this is something that you've made priority, please reach out. Molly at nolancg.com. I'm happy to share some templates to help you get started. At the end of the day, we want more businesses and more people to have the tools that they need so that you're not dealing with how do we handle this when you're also handling grief or trying to get somebody healthy again.
Yeah. I'll make a plug. My coaching passion these days is succession planning, likely because I'm now 7 years out from stepping down, and 7 years is the years that they give to begin that plan. And so we have a pretty comprehensive succession planning process, the first step of which is crisis planning. And then it goes into other elements of how are you going to sell it, pass it off, and what that looks like. And then what's your second purpose in life?
If you are the ripe age of 27 years old and you think the world is forever and, nothing can harm you, if you have employees, you have to do a crisis letter.
You have to. Not optional, guys.
This is not age optional.
Yeah.
This is, do I have a business? Do I have people who depend on me?
And when you're writing it, like it goes back and forth, I get involved and there are drafts of it. So what we always do is we always say as of, because it could happen in the process. Something happens during it. So
yeah, as of. If you're taking what we talk about today and you take some templates, first step is to document this as of today's date.
Yeah, thanks, Molly, for bringing this to the surface and forefront.
Yeah, absolutely.